want to be clear here that my purpose in sharing all of that is not to issue some sweeping condemnation of Native American Indians, nor is it to offer up a vindication for the murderous actions of the early colonists. My purpose here is to simply tell the truth about the history of all men of days past. The truth about the history of all men of days past, a history that is complex, ugly, brutish, immoral, and leaves no man, regardless of his skin complexion, guiltless. But the left wants us to believe otherwise. To them, imperialism, cannibalism, murder, slavery, all of these undeniably sinful acts are forgiven in a historical context so long as they were not committed by white men. So, they can forget the murderous Persian Empire. They can forget the cannibalism of indigenous tribes. They can forget the heinous actions of imperialistic Egyptian Empire, the Turkish Empire, the Muslim Abbasid and Rashidun Caliphate empires, the Chinese Qing and Ming empires, the Mongol Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Japanese Empire. We can forget the fact that the overwhelming majority of the world's empires were not run by white men. They also, by the way, choose to forget the fact that the first to abolish the practice of slavery was Great Britain. They were then followed by the French colonies, who were then followed by the United States. Centuries of slavery and 3 countries of white men led the world in ending it. No. Don't clap. You're supposed to forget it. You're supposed to forget it because leftist indoctrination teaches us today that it only really mattered. Slavery only really mattered when they did it. The white man's history needs to never, ever be forgotten. But what if we're not talking about history? What if we're talking about present? What if we're talking about today? People like Colin Kaepernick hate America right now, and that hatred is rooted in some intangible concept of the present sin of our country's mere existence. Surely, that must be the reason why, on the 4th of July, Colin also tweeted, "How can we truly celebrate independence on a day that intentionally robbed our ancestors of theirs? To find my independence, I went home," end quote. He was referring to Africa. Colin took a trip to Ghana because, in his own words, he wanted to see what his people saw before they were forcefully taken away. And I really want to pause and drive this point home, so let me restate it. In lieu of celebrating his independence in America, Colin got on a plane and went to Africa, a continent upon which he found better grounds for celebration, which is interesting. It's interesting because currently, today in Africa, there are close to 700,000 slaves, and this is going to shock the heck out of the too woke to see what's in front of them crowd, but they are not being enslaved by white people. They are being enslaved by other Africans. Child soldiers, human trafficking, forced labor all exist within the same sub-Saharan region that the transatlantic slave trade took place. African bodies are being sold today like they were being sold then, and they are not being purchased by any country of predominantly white men. It's a wonder that Colin never mentioned that in Ghana today, his beloved country of emotional reprieve from the horror of America, 20,000 children live in slavery to support the fishing industry along Lake Volta. In fact, it was leftist network CNN that covered the story last year when a boy was rescued from slavery and had explained to them that while in captivity, he was made to work tirelessly, and that if the famished children were caught trying to eat the fish, they were beaten so senselessly that they wished that they had never been born. Why didn't Colin mention any of this? Why haven't any of the alleged courageous leaders on Black issues of oppression mentioned any of this? I know, because they aren't leaders at all. They're all extortionists. Colin extorted Black America to earn millions. Colin extorted Native Americans to maintain his image, and Colin extorted Ghana for a photo op so he could continue to earn those millions. But Colin wasn't the first, he isn't the only, and he certainly won't be the last. So, to Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, to Nisi Coates, to CNN, to the New York Times, to MSNBC and their anchors, to every single one of you race hustlers who have extorted Black pain to line your own pockets, who have blindfolded the Black youth against seeing the opportunities that lay beneath their feet here in America, in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, I say this to you. There will be a Blexit, a Black exit.